Welcome to the Central Pennsylvania Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast, keeping you up to date with what is happening in the York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania real estate markets.
Welcome to the Central PA Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast. My name is Chad Eisenhart. Each week I go to local real estate meetups in York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and rebroadcast them in their entirety. Whether you're a new real estate investor just looking to get started or have 100 doors, real estate meetups are a great place to find like-minded individuals, including buying and selling your deals. I'm a buy and hold real estate investor in York, Pennsylvania, focused on single-family, multifamily, and self-storage. You can find me at chadbuys.com. This week, I'm at Wealth Builders of Central PA in York, Pennsylvania, hosted by Anthony Lynam of CR Property Group. Anthony's the speaker this evening, and he gives a great talk on flipping for profits. Anthony discusses how to find off-market deals, negotiating with contractors, including naming your price, having multiple exits, including wholesaling, flipping, buying and hold, the right way to comp properties, maximizing profit, including 2 recent tricks he learned at a national mastermind meetup, including always being the last to counter $500 and impressing your retail buyers with the wow factor. He also discusses cost estimating for repairs. And now on to this week's episode. Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll get started here. So welcome to our meetup. Appreciate everybody coming out. This meetup, we are Wealth Builders of Central PA. My name is Anthony Lynam. I'm the Director of Operations for CR Property Group. CR Property Group puts on these meetups, pays for them, we don't charge, just as our way of giving back to the local investment community. We've been very blessed and fortunate with the business that we have. The owner, Eric Brewer, has had CR Property Group for 15 years. Very well established. We buy, renovate, and resell over 30 homes a month. Last month we bought 43 homes. So we have a pretty big operation. And like I said, we're just very fortunate that other investors from across the country have really taught us what to do. And we are part of a large national mastermind called Collective Genius as a top 2% of real estate investors in the country. So a lot of what we do comes from them. I wish I could sit here and say that we came up with it on our own, but we didn't. So this is our way of giving back because we feel, frankly, that it's been given to us. So that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. We've changed the venue. This is our first time in this venue at Heritage Hills. So as you talk to or network with other real estate investors, spread the word, have them come out. We'll be here the first Monday of every month. And then we'll work on getting those invites and everything consistent and correct. Apologize for the mistake on the Facebook event page today. So we did have another speaker for tonight who wasn't able to make it, so I'm going to do flipping for profits tonight and basically teach you guys how to maximize your profits when flipping a home. Is anybody currently flipping now? Raise your hands. Okay. Anybody looking to flip in the near future? A few more people. Okay. So what we're going to do, and whether you're going to, is anybody looking to buy and hold? All right. So now I think we covered the whole entire room. So what I want you guys to realize is if we're maximizing profits in a flip, you can use these same strategies to maximize how much you're into your rental. In other words, how to save money on your rentals so that you're in the deal for less, you make more cash flow, you have to borrow less money. Maybe your strategy in holding properties is to cash them out and get money back so that you can continue to move forward with other deals. Regardless, what I want you to realize is this: I'm going to teach you how to maximize profits when you flip a property, but you can apply the same strategies when you buy, renovate, and hold as well, okay? Let's get started. Again, we are Wealth Builders of Central PA. Today, I want to cover just these 4 bullet points and try to keep it simple because, there's folks in the room that have varying degrees of experience or understanding of what we're doing, so I'll keep it simple. If you guys want me to elaborate on something a little bit deeper, please, raise your hand and ask questions. What I would love from you guys is as much participation as possible. So for instance, Brittany's a realtor. So if, we start asking like, hey, why would you use a realtor to find a flip property? I'm sure you have plenty of insight on that, right? You're currently doing that now, and share some of your expertise with us. The more you guys engage with us, the better this will go. So we're gonna cover how to find a deal, what's important when making a deal, estimating renovations, and maximizing profit. Now, I'm not gonna teach you how to estimate renovations. I'm gonna teach you the important bullet points of estimating renovations so that you can maximize your profits from flipping, okay? So the first slide is finding a deal. Simply put, you have on market. So what does on market mean? If anybody's taking notes, on market can mean a number of different things. For us, what it means is it's listed on the MLS, or frankly, it's out there in front of the public, forward facing, like an auction site, okay? Doesn't necessarily have to be on the MLS, but it's something that is being advertised to you as the public. That's on market. You with me? It could be an auctioneer that, one of the guys that has the gavel and talks real fast. And that's being advertised to you as the public, right? So that to us means it's on the market. FSBOs you could include in on market if you want. That might be like right on the line for me, but sure, right? Great question, by the way, because it's okay if it's in the gray area. Right now, we're trying to figure out how do we find all the deals, right? So anybody else have any ideas, questions on market? So again, just keep in mind, broad scope, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into this, but on market is something that's being advertised for sale, okay? Off market is direct to seller. So that seller is not out there advertising their property. So you might ask yourself, well, why would you go to that person and try to buy their house? Does anybody know why? Yep. Get a better deal because there's no competition. It's a great answer. Anybody else? No commissions. That's the benefit we provide to them or tell them, right? So, great answer. So off market, you'll spend a lot more money trying to chase down those deals, but you'll get a lot more in return, okay? The reason why we attack off market is because those are the folks that either need to sell and maybe just don't know it yet, or they're in a position where when they look at on market, they tell themselves, I can't sell my house that way, right? So a hoarder house. If you've ever met anybody who's a hoarder, they are completely embarrassed by their situation. They will not list that house with a realtor. They will not list it with an auctioneer. They only have one option. It's to sell it off market to guys like us, okay? Now that's just one example. I could give you a number of other examples. Timing, right? So maybe they need to sell it in 30 days or 15 days. They know in their mind that on market is not an option. They do not have the time or opportunity to list it and maximize the value on the property. So those are just two examples of what an off-market seller is. You with me? Now I'm going to put a slide up here right after this slide. I got to jump around a little bit because this was a little bit last minute, but I'll show you all of the off-market segments that we pursue. Okay, I'll do that here in a second. Realtor. So why would it be important to use a realtor? Brittany, this is your calling. Access, good one. Coming from the on-market guy.
Somebody's not sure if they want to sell it on the market.
Okay.
And maximize the time frame.
Okay.
You get the first call.
I like that. So that would be a case where a realtor has a pocket deal. Perfect. Yep. I haven't heard anybody say expertise yet. So who in the room is new to real estate investing? Raise your hand. Do you feel like you need an expert or a mentor or somebody who you hired a coach. Now that's to buy 25 plus units, a little different. But real estate agents, commercial brokers are one of the best resources for those deals, right? It doesn't matter on market or off market, the brokers are the ones that really control those big units. And the sellers enjoy that. I shouldn't say they enjoy, but they see the value in using that broker, right? So why do they see the value in using that broker? Expertise. They want to make sure that they have an expert on their side. Sheriff sale, tax sale, and auction. So sheriff sale used to work a lot better than it does. We actually hired a guy to go to sheriff sales and just buy at sheriff sales. Didn't work out very well. People were paying top dollar. They were paying way more than they should have at the sheriff sales. But still a way to find a deal. One of the best ways to find maybe a single family that is in decent condition, that you might not need to do a lot of work to, and then you're going to get a discount on it, but maybe not a steep discount because it doesn't need too much renovation. Tax sales, just beware, you got to know what you're doing at a tax sale. Bottom line there is you need title searches to make sure that, because when you buy a tax sale, you're going to buy it with all the other liens that are on it. So you got to make sure it doesn't have any liens. There's just a couple ways to find deals there. Let me bounce to the other slideshow where I cover, this is from our Lancaster meetup that we did. Eric presented there. So let me just show you this. These are our off-market segments. These are the ways that we do our off-market lead generation. We do predictive analytics. That just says, hey, this group of people has this list of pain points. It could be medical conditions. It could be vacancy. It could be any number of these things that are here. Absentee owners, reverse mortgage, divorce, utility terminations, you name it. So predictive analytics is predicting that these people are going to sell in a very short time frame or accept your cash offer, right? So we pay a ton of money to a company that sends us predictive analytics lists. We buy lists of 25,000 names in each one of our markets, Lancaster, Harrisburg, and York. And then that guy is a data scientist. He goes out and takes all of the properties that have sold in those counties, figures out who sold to a cash buyer, figures out who those people were, how old they were, what their living situation was, what their lifestyle was, where did they go, what are they doing, what do they eat for breakfast? I don't know, but it's predictive analytics. You with me? We haven't figured out what it does yet, but he figured it out. So the company that we use for that is called Audantic. So stacking lists, that's taking any number of these pain points, we put them together and we say, hey, if they have 3 or more of these pain points, then send them this postcard. Niche list, that's each one of these broken down into the niches. We do outbound social media marketing and follow-up. Bottom line is this, these are our off-market segments, and then we buy these lists and do all of these things, the outbound, stacking lists, and follow up to those. Of course, we mail them, we target them on Facebook and everything else. So that's our way of generating leads off market. What I can tell you is if you want to generate leads off market, or if you want to find a deal through this way of doing it, same thing Brandon said, pick a goal and stick with it. It's taken us years, and I can't tell you how many man hours to make this run, master it, and everything else. You as a single investor, you only need one. You don't need to do all of this. Pick a niche, stick with it, learn how to communicate with those people and generate leads that way if you want to attack off market. Did you have a question? Pastor, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I thought I saw you raise your hand. No, that's okay. All right, so making a deal. The biggest thing here is, so sometimes you can negotiate yourself out of a deal, right? By being too conservative. If you're going to be in real estate investing, you have to learn how to take risks. It's that simple. If you're going to be conservative, it's going to be very tough for you to make a deal, okay? So what I want you to realize through all of this is you can learn how to negotiate, dare I say, with yourself to make a deal, okay? Now that doesn't mean talk yourself into a deal. That doesn't mean fall in love with a piece of real estate and buy it because you love it. What I mean is, don't be so rigid, okay? I'm going to show you a deal analysis that we use, and it's rigid. It's black and white. I have every cost it's going to take to buy that thing. It has every expense I have wrapped up into finding a deal. It has everything in it. And then at the end of the day, once I have a number, I have to ask myself, am I okay if that goes down 5,000? Do I have a way to make that go up 5,000? That's what I'm talking about when I say negotiate with myself. If I look at the black and white of that deal analysis every time I go to make a deal, I'll never make a deal. Because it's too rigid. You with me? Now, through this, I hope by the end of this you learn, like, hey, if I can maximize my profits in this one area, the next time I get a deal and it says a $14,000 profit, I know how to go over here to my renovations and make it an $18,000 profit. You with me? That's what I'm hoping to teach you today. So the deal analysis, let me just pull one up we had here. So these are our sheets that we use, okay? What I want you to know and understand, and I don't mind sharing these sheets with you guys, okay? It's a Google Doc. I'll make a copy for the investor meetup. But what I want you to see here is that this has all of the costs involved in buying, selling, lending, acquisition costs, your closing costs, your purchase price, everything, taxes, you name it. And then here's our different exit strategies. So when I say you got to be willing to negotiate with yourself, you have to be willing to make a deal based upon being flexible on how you're going to exit that property. Or if it doesn't fit one of your strategies, does it fit another one? So a couple of you are looking to text, right? Fix and flip or wholesale, right? So it might make a good wholesale deal. Chances are if it makes a good wholesale deal, it should make a good fix and flip, right? But maybe if it doesn't make a good wholesale deal, it's still a good fix and flip. Or maybe what we have down here is turnkey. That's really us renovating it, putting a tenant in place, and then we sell it to an investor. So if you're a buy and hold investor, turnkey for you is you're going to buy it and turnkey it to yourself, right? You're going to fix it up, then you're going to put a tenant in it. So what I want you to realize is just because you have a deal, if it doesn't fit one of your exit strategies, there's somebody else in this room, it fits their exit strategy, right? Now maybe you can change what you're doing with the property, take a $5,000 wholesale fee and sell it to the guy that is going to fix it to hold it. Are you guys with me? Do you see where I'm going with, like, you got to be able to be flexible, negotiate with yourself. What else can I do with this? I put all this time, energy, and effort into finding this deal. What am I going to do with it? If you use just the first sheet and you say, hey, you know what? It doesn't fit my fix and flip model. I'm just going to call the guy and tell him I'm out. You just put all that time and energy and effort into a deal, and you got to be able to learn the art of making a deal. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Does that make sense? So exit strategies are so key because when you find a deal, and this happens to us all the time. I'll show you another one here. This is one we did this morning. We bought this, and when we bought it, we thought it was going to be a great retail flip. Got in, we underestimated the renovations by $15,000. We already had it under contract, passed our due diligence period. We said, okay, what else can we do with this? All right, well, now we can make it a good rental. So for us, it didn't make a good fix and flip. We were only going to make about $11,000. Do you know how much cash flow it'll make per month? $400 a month. So it's a great rental, so we just buy it and keep it as a rental. Now, if I get $400 a month, that's $4,800. So in two years, I'm going to make the profit back that I would have made by retail flipping it. Does it make sense? Now, you guys might not be able to do all of the exit strategies that we're doing, but what I want you to see is that there's other people that you can network with that can help you fulfill those other exit strategies so that when you put all of your time, energy, and effort into finding a deal, you still have an exit strategy with that. So if you leave here with one thing tonight, it's network with the other people in the room that have other exit strategies that are different than yours, and make sure that you have build a relationship with them so you can help each other out. Does that make sense? All right. So again, just be able to be flexible. Don't be rigid on your deal analysis. And the last thing is just make sure you have tools and resources to figure this stuff out. If you're doing this by pen and paper, and don't get me wrong, we used to do it by pen and paper too. And it wasn't more than 2 years ago. So now we have the sheets to make sure that we're tracking everything and we're doing everything to the best of our ability. We have actual expenses in them and everything else. So I'll share this with you guys. You'll be able to use the resource, but just make sure you're using tools and resources. That's why I have deal analysis up here. And then comps. So comps I could spend 2 hours talking about in training. So Brittany, just give me a couple pointers on comps. Like if you're gonna buy, if you're gonna sell, if you're gonna help an investor buy a real estate investment property, what are some important things that they need to know about comps?
Well, I mean, the area would be the first. Like
Okay.
School district is what I usually start with.
Perfect.
Beds, bath.
So can I stop you right there? Yes, absolutely. So area. What Brittany said was her area is defined by school district. Okay? Extremely important when you're flipping. Extremely important. An appraiser, conversely, will run comps most of the time on a radius or they'll define their area by distance. Okay? Where you get stuck on that as an investor is if you use a 3-mile radius and it goes into a different school district that doesn't demand the same price that Dallastown Schools demands, you got the wrong comp. Are you with me? So I love that you said school district. I'll take that one step further and say that your area needs to be defined by the prevailing criteria of that property. What I mean by prevailing criteria is who are you selling that property to? If it's a family, school district is the most important thing. If it's a young professional, a downsizer that doesn't care about school district, it's a radius because it's how close it is to shopping, or it's how close it is for young professional. Do they got to get on the highway and go to work? Are you with me? So you got to think about who's buying. This is for retail flips only. You got to think about who's buying that property. The area that you're defining your comps within has to be a part of what that buyer is looking for. Does that make sense? But 8 times out of 10, it's school district when you're flipping houses. Okay? So I just wanted to cover that. Anything else you can give us as tips on comps?
No, I'd say that's like the number one to start with that I use at least.
Yep, so that's always our first criteria too, even before style and square footage. So write this down if you guys are taking notes. If you want to run good comps on your own, the way that we do it is area, and again, that area just has to be defined by what the audience is or the buyer of that property is going, what is their demographic, okay? So that's area. An area can be distance, so a radius search, or it can be school district. Stick with those two, right? The next thing is the style of the home. So write this down, 2-story against a 2-story. We do not comp 2 stories versus a ranch home. Doesn't work. Appraisers won't do it. We don't do it. It's not going to work. And then everything else goes into a 1.5 story category. So a bi-level, a split level, a Cape Cod all go into the same category. Now you try to compare a Cape Cod to a Cape Cod. If you don't find results, then you go Cape Cod to split level and bi-level. And the same thing goes for bi-level. If you start with a bi-level, you want to try to compare it against other bi-levels. Is everybody with me? Any questions so far? Am I losing any of you? And then the last thing is size. So if you can stick to those 3 things, area, style, and size, and what's important about the size is an appraiser is going to start with 10%. So if you have a 1,200 square foot house, that appraiser is not going to comp a 1,400 square foot house against a 1,200 square foot house because it's over 10%. Now, what I'll tell you is that's a gray area. They will comp the 1,400 square foot house if they can't find other comps like it, and then they'll put a variance at the bottom that says, hey, we're adjusting for this difference in the square footage. What I also need you to know is that an appraiser is definitely not using a comp that's over 20% larger or smaller. You with me? That's a red flag and won't happen. You with me? So in other words, if I have a 1,000 square foot ranch home, can I comp it against a 1,300 square foot ranch home? It's 30% bigger. No. Okay? So just make sure that you're staying within those size and square footage parameters. Everybody with me so far? All right, now because the focus of this is maximizing profits, what I want you to realize is if I'm going to maximize my profit on a flip, I need to comp other flips. Okay? That's maximizing your profit. So if I sit there and I say, hey, I'm going to sell this ranch home for $200,000 and all the other ranch homes are completely beat up and nothing's been updated, I should be able to sell mine for $220,000. Okay? This goes back to your deal analysis and being too rigid. You need to know that you can push the limits to maximize your profits. And that doesn't mean pay $20,000 more for the property. Hey, I'm going to make this deal work because I can sell it for $220,000. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you got to be aware that you don't want to list it for $200,000. You want to try to push that value. And when you pull the comps, just make sure that you find another rehabbed comp to know that you can maximize what you can get out of it. Are you with me? Does that make sense? Question? You look like you wanted to ask a question. I was talking to Chad. So then deal analysis. When you maximize your deal analysis, you want to look at that and you want to make sure that, hey, can I change something in this deal analysis to maximize my profit? Again, not in order to make the deal happen. You want all of these safety factors built in. You want all worst case expenses, all worst case scenarios built in so that you buy it right. Are you with me? That's all there to make sure that I have everything covered. I even have here, you know, the construction overage on this is only, the rehab's $5,000, so construction overage shows up as 10% of it's $500, but in a $50,000 rehab, my construction overage is $5,000, right? So I've built in the safety factors. The point is, once you buy it, you need to go back and figure out where you can start making money. One of the best ways is to change your lending. So if you're borrowing hard money at high points and high interest, find a different hard money lender who has lower points, lower interest. Go to an institutional lender, meaning a community bank or somebody that's not going to charge you 5 points or 4 points. Get a relationship with them, somebody you're currently having, where you currently have your accounts, right? Get a relationship with them, or they'll do a line of credit for you. Change how you borrow money. One of the biggest things is how quick can I turn this around? So when you do we do a deal analysis, we figure on a 5-month hold. But if you can turn it in 30 days, can you put more people, more contractors, more labor on the job site to finish it faster, finish it in 30 days and cut 2 months of your holding costs out? So what I want you to realize is when you make money as an investor, it's because you're always looking for the money. It's because you're looking around every corner trying to cut everything that you can out of the deal to maximize your profits. That's what we're trying to do today. I want you guys to realize that. Like, don't go in thinking, hey, like, all right, life's good. I'll just come in and this is all going to work the way it said on the sheet. It doesn't work that way, right? Your rehab's going to go over. Then in the end, you're trying to scramble to find money to make money. Do it all up front. Do it all in the beginning, okay? All right, let's move on to estimating renovations. So here's the biggest thing that we learned from renovations, and we're still learning this the hard way, is when you estimate for renovations, you have two ways of getting this job done and maximizing your profit. You can have, let's say I go and I make a list of repairs, right? I need a roof, I need a plumber, I need a bathroom put in, and I need flooring, and the list goes on and on and on, right? So what I can do, the first way of doing this is I can send my list of repairs to a general contractor, or I can send it to subcontractors. Either way, you'll save money by doing the general contracting yourself and just overseeing each one of the subs. But the point I'm trying to make here is you could send those subcontractors out to the job and you could say, how much is this going to cost me? Well, what do you think you're going to pay? You're going to pay what they want you to pay. Are you with me? Now, you could send 3 contractors out and say, hey, give me a price on this and take the best bid, right? That's a better way to do it. Or what you can do is determine what it should cost, right? Mentors, could be contractor friends who you know and trust to give you a reliable price. Maybe they're too busy to do the work. Maybe they will do the work. But you could determine what that budget is for you and then find the contractor that'll do it for that amount. Now, that's not the easiest thing to do in the world. But what I can tell you is if you determine the price, you will always maximize your profits. Okay? This isn't a strategy to get things done for the cheapest amount of money possible. It's a strategy so that you have control. Are you with me? Does that make sense? All right, so what we've actually done is we've taken this a couple steps further and we've standardized our pricing. Now, it helps when you have a list of 27 general contractors and, 50 other subcontractors. But the reality is, if you have a standard, other people will do it for your standard. That same contractor that wanted to charge you $1,500, he'll do it for $1,200 when you ask him. It's just that simple. I know it sounds fake or too good to be true, but it's true. And the reality is the guy who needs that work is the guy who's going to do it for your price. And the guy who needs that work is the guy that's going to show up, be reliable, get the job done, get paid, and he's going to come back and he's going to do it for the same price next time. That's where the real value is, okay? Because he said he would do it for you. Now, the guy who comes out and gives you a price, do you know what happens when he comes back to your second job and your third job? The price keeps going up every time he comes back to a job until you tell him that no. That's the difference. So to maximize your profit, find a standard price, set it, or have a budget and find the guy to get it done for that number. All right? Pretty simple. Any questions? All right, and then maximizing profit. This has to do with standardization, has to do with materials. So one of the best ways to maximize your profit on a rehab is to do the same exact rehab every single time. Go ahead.
Question, when you said about standardizing the price, are you saying just kind of know what the price would be per square footage to put up sheetrock, or know what your floor pricing is per square footage? Like you always have that number in your head and you're pretty much not going above that.
Absolutely. So here's our standardized pricing. Just about everything that could be done in a house. So when our acquisition agents walk a property, they fill this out and get their renovation estimates. It's pretty long, 260 lines. And there's stuff we add in here every day. So yeah, and this has been through our experience. And then we try to even save money on these numbers sometimes. We're always trying to find contractors that'll do it for a little bit less.
Now, when you do that, are you dealing, like, the lesser they cost, are you getting poor results from the contractors?
Poor quality?
Poor quality, that's the word.
No. Here's the challenge with that. If you manage the project, if you're there checking on your work, they'll do good work. If you're not there and you just show up 3 weeks later, well, we won't even talk about that. But if you're there, my point is this, even if it's somebody who doesn't do good quality work, if you show up each and every day, he's going to do a better job to match your expectations. Are you with me? Yep. The other thing, too, I want you guys to realize, and I haven't covered this, is whoever you hire is only as good as their worst guy. So if you hire somebody and he's got 3 people working for him, and let's say he's a master electrician, right? And he's got 3 other people working for him, that master electrician and the work that he does at your property is only as good as his $10 an hour guy. Let that sink in for a second. You could be hiring a brand name company. Are you with me? You're paying top dollar for what you think is going to be quality because it's the guy who charges the most amount of money or like charges a decent, you're smiling. It's so true, right? You're right. So you're only as good as your $10 an hour guy. Would you agree? So that's part of the quality control. Now what we've found is the owner-operator contractors, right? That they're the expert, they're there doing the work, they don't have the overhead, therefore they can do it for a fair price and do the good quality work. You with me? So if you're looking for a contractor, that's what I would suggest. It's an owner-operator who's either going to be on site checking on their workers' stuff all of the time so that you don't have to, and they care about their quality because guess where their business comes from? Referral business. They need your repeat work. Okay? So to me, that's the best of both worlds where you have a contractor who is going to do the best quality work for the least amount of money. They don't have all the advertising and the overhead and all of those things, all the trucks and the fleet of vehicles and everything else. You with me? So let me give you, if you don't mind, let me give you an example of, so when he says scope of work, what we're talking about is, let's say that this says, replace panels, these are all electric. Let me go up to foyer. These are all fairly detailed, but an example would be, let's say instead of replacing, we say replace a door. Well, a scope of work, the difference between replace door and scope of work would be, it would say replace hardware, use brushed nickel, right? Use a pre-hung door that has the trim on it. So you're going deeper with the description so that there's there's nothing left for them to figure out, right? You have a written description of exactly what they need to do. We used to do this, and I'm really trying to get it back on board, but to have the specific material selection from Home Depot with the SKU number on it in the scope of work, right? Like you are using brushed nickel, SKU number, SKU 55,000, right? So that's what you're referring to. The more detailed you can get with a written scope of work. Go ahead, Chad.
Buying materials, who's in your bids, it's kind of probably getting off track, but who's buying materials when your contractors are doing the job?
So we budget for the materials. I'm going to tell you right now, not the best system. This is one of the challenges that are out there. So if you want control over the materials and the material costs, you as the investor or the flipper will be the one to buy the materials, pick out the selections, put it in your car or on the truck and deliver it, or have Home Depot deliver it or whatever. That gives you control over those materials and the cost of those materials. At our scale, that's too much for us to handle. So what we do is we give the contractors a budget for materials, and then we order all the materials, have them delivered, and then anything that's missing or anything that might be wrong, or even stuff that they end up not using, they then take back to Home Depot and we get the credit for them. So we allow the contractors to manage the materials, but we still come up with a material list and have it delivered. So we're kind of a mix of both. I don't think we're the best at it, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement for us. The reason why I say there's room for improvement, even though we're actually selecting them, it's our budgeting process. Like, we don't really have a control over it. Bottom line is our contractor could literally go to Home Depot, we give them a barcode to scan, and they could buy whatever they want, and we wouldn't know unless we're checking the receipts. So yeah, we give them a budget, and they might look and see their materials, or like we gave them a budget of $5,000. I'm not saying this happens, I'm saying there's potential for it. We give them a budget of $5,000, you have $3,500 of materials delivered, they know that they have an extra $1,500. So, you know, and I'm not saying this happens, but it could happen. I believe it doesn't happen to us because we have loyal contractors. We've employed these guys for 15 years. But as an investor, for you, when you hire somebody to flip that house, yeah, that happens. Happens all the time. Helen took an appointment this morning, an acquisitions appointment. Guy got taken by a contractor. Contractor went in, finished half the job, left with all the money. So one of your ways to make sure that doesn't happen is to control the materials. Make sense? Great question. Any more questions on this and standardized pricing and how to maximize your profits on the renovations? So renovate to the comps. Now, again, this isn't something that we do often, and mainly for us, it's just liability. Like when we go in and we renovate a house, we do what we call no stone left unturned. Like we're fixing everything you could possibly imagine, even if we don't have to, okay? And it's just because we don't want the callbacks. We don't want people calling us 6 months later and saying, hey, you know, you didn't caulk that window. And that, trust me, we get those calls all the time. So for us, we renovate to the highest standard we possibly can so that we just make sure that we don't have any liability coming out the other end. But for you guys, if you're going to maximize your profits as a flipper, you got to realize that you can't go in and renovate the whole entire house to be the Taj Mahal. You got to look at the comps and see, hey, and I'm not as familiar with York County as I am in Harrisburg, but if I'm going to sell a house out in the sticks in Delta, like, do I have to remove that paneling, or can I paint it? That's just a simple example, right? Do I have to take out all that pink tile, or can I glaze it, right? The way to make those decisions is to look at your comps. It's to look at, hey, if that other house sold for $200,000, like I only need to renovate this to that in order to sell it for $200,000. Am I okay doing that, or do I want to go in and put more bells and whistles and try to push the profit up? That's up to you. You make the decisions whether you want to take that risk or not. But what I'm telling you is one of the best ways to maximize your profits is to not over renovate the home. Renovate it to the comps, okay? Now don't leave grandma's pink tile in the bathroom. That's not what we're saying. What I'm saying is just make sure that you're not overdoing it. There's a lot of times where you can keep the flush doors, right? You don't need to put new 6-panel colonial doors in. You can keep just the flush panel door and not have to replace them. The way to make that decision is to go to the comps, see what else sold for that price range and what that house did. And if you remember back when I said, hey, you got to find the other comps that were renovated, right? Well, what did that other flipper do? Did he leave no stone left unturned and rehab it like the Taj Mahal? If the answer is no, then you shouldn't have to either. One of the ways to maximize your profits. Again, going back to negotiation. Now, originally when I said deal analysis and making a deal, I said don't negotiate negotiate with yourself, right? Like negotiate with yourself to make a deal. What I'm talking about here is right from the onset, it's negotiating with the seller or the seller's agent. I'm referencing right now, you make your money when you buy the house. Bottom line, okay? I'm teaching all these other ways to maximize your profit. These are ways to squeeze out $500 here, $1,000 there, $2,000 here or there. Are you with me? And if you do that 5 times over, you just made another $10,000. But you can make $10,000 by buying it right the first time and not beat your head against the wall to get there. Are you with me? So just keep in mind that when you buy it right is when you make your money. And then the last thing I'll leave up here is one of the best stories I ever heard, and this is from when we went to the last Collective Genius Mastermind just here in the fall. So I met this guy who was renovating, he was doing close to 200 homes a year, and he's like, two things. One, actually, let me take a step back. This is part of negotiation. He said, always be the last one to negotiate for $500. Now, if you're our size and you're renovating 400 homes a year, like take $500 times 300. Just do the math. Like if we just went back to every single buyer on their last offer, their last counter offer, and told them another $500, they'll never walk away from that $500. They won't. It's a home buyer. Like they want the house, particularly the house that's completely renovated, right? They're not going to walk away from your $500 counter offer on the last counter offer. You make sure that you're the last one to counter with $500. And then he did the math and he showed me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe we're not doing that. So that was one of the things he taught me. Then the wow factor that he taught me was, what he did was, he said 9 times out of 10, he used a wine fridge, okay? Now what his point was, find something that's a wow factor for that demographic. They'll pay you $5,000 more for the house for a $200 wine fridge. Because in the completely renovated house, if you have one item that they view as a luxury item that they couldn't get anywhere else, right? How many houses do you see that are on the market, Brittany? How many houses have a wine fridge in the kitchen? I haven't seen any. So like probably next to none. But if you did that, it makes the house unique. You got to look for a way to give them the wow factor, because just like in any other purchase decision, they're basing that decision on an emotional response, okay? They're not making a logical decision, particularly, go ahead, Chad.
So have you done that? Like, do you have an example where you're like, holy crap, I can't believe it's actually worked?
So we're now doing shiplap, which I think has changed the scope of our renovations. I think it's changed the reaction that we've gotten from buyers. Can I attach a dollar amount to it? Not quite yet. We're not doing the wine fridge, but it's something I would love to do. Eric, our owner, is still very much involved in the renovating of the properties and the selection of the materials and everything. And I can tell you, he's always looking for a wow factor. He just loves it. He enjoys it very much. A lot of times they're putting it into the curb appeal of the house. So like we won't budget to paint a brick house and then he'll throw some cool new color on it and it's like bam, right? It's wow factor. So we just finished one in Mechanicsburg, 500 Marble Street, and the wow factor was just painting the old shutter. I mean, these are old shutters on the front of the house. Just painted them teal. Like that's a wow factor. Now it's not the wine fridge that somebody's going to pay you $5,000 more for, but it's the picture that's on Facebook that's going to get you the showing, right? And had we painted them gray, it's not the same thing. It's not the same house. And it wouldn't draw you in. And as soon as I posted those pictures, everybody who commented on my Facebook posts was like, wow, that looks amazing. And it wasn't because we painted the brick gray, it was because of 2 stinking teal shutters. See what I mean? Now, the purpose of this in maximizing profits is to look for that wine fridge or that thing that's going to give them the feeling that the house has something that no other house has. Are you with me? And they'll pay you, his quote was, they'll pay you $5,000 more for the $200 wine fridge. And the guy, I mean, he definitely knew what he was talking about. So that was it for me. What questions do you guys have? Let me give you guys another thing that we learned from the mastermind. There was a guy there who did a presentation. When we go to these masterminds, everybody has to do a presentation. So what he did in order to get his price or to meet his budget was, let's say it was a bathroom. He would take a picture of the bathroom, right? And he would post it on Facebook Marketplace and in the Facebook groups. and he would put his budget number at the top, and he would say, looking for a contractor who can do this job for $3,000. He would take a picture of the furnace. I need to replace this furnace. I'm looking for a Goodman furnace. He would put his standard for the furnace in the post with a picture, because you have to have pictures. Like, people's eyes go to pictures, and particularly an old beat up furnace. Looking to replace this with a Goodman, $3,500. You've just set your price, and everybody who responds has already agreed to the price. It's pretty wild what you can do nowadays with technology and networking and just what's out there. So, anybody else want to share something they learned today? Good. If you guys, what I would suggest is, so our pricing has come from experience. Xactimate, it's with an X, so it's X Actimate, I suppose. But if you just look up Xactimate, you can spell it out. No, I'm not making up my own word there. Let me just make sure that it's. There it is. It's Xactimate. It's an insurance estimating software. You sign up for a free trial. Some of our pricing came out of that. But we just hired a director of construction. He was a national sales director for Belfour. Does anybody here know who Belfour is? Never heard of Belfour? So Belfour, they're one of the world's largest restoration company. They're all over the world. So he was a national sales director for them. He came to work for us. And then he's the one that standardized our pricing. Again, a lot of it was based off of pricing that we had from our previous contractors, but then Xactimate is where he really dialed in some of the things that we didn't currently have. So it's a good tool to use if you guys need one.
Did you say you can share those spreadsheets?
I absolutely can. Yep. Just for you guys, though.
I have a question. For renovating whole,
Yep.
have you used bathtub resurfacings? Are they durable enough for keeping, or is that primarily cosmetic for flips?
So that's a really good question. I don't think I have enough knowledge of it to answer intelligently. I can tell you that you wouldn't know that it was reglazed. The guy that does it for us does such a phenomenal job, you'd never know. It looks like a brand new tub, looks like brand new tile. You'd never know that he glazed it. As far as the durability is concerned, I got to imagine it's epoxy. So, I got to imagine that lasts pretty long. Essentially, you're putting a brand new surface on it. Great question. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Yeah, I'm answering your question. In my own house, I just recently reglazed my own tub.
Okay.
Follow directions. Came out fabulous.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Have you tested it with a hammer or chisel or anything yet?
No. I'm not going to do that. But the tub is fine. The hole is done.
Yeah.
And I reglazed it by the instructions, took care of cleaning it, put it together. Beautiful. Yep. I got a nice kit down at Step Up. You gotta follow instructions, because if you don't, it's not gonna last. Mine's gorgeous.
Appreciate you guys coming. Any questions before we break? Thank you guys so much. If you signed in, we'll make sure you get a copy of these spreadsheets, okay? And you know what? The one I'm going to send actually has our standardized pricing in it. So it'll have this. It's over here under quoting estimate, okay? We also have the old print version that we used to use. But I'll send you guys this exact spreadsheet if you just leave your name, email over there. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say something. In the beginning, you asked, what have you learned? And it kind of caught me off. I didn't, because I wasn't thinking. But I have something if anybody wants to hear it.
Shoot.
So I'm in the buy and
Hold on real quick, guys. Steve has just something to share real quick.
I'm in the buy and hold. I own a couple mobile home parks, and I started out with like 2 units in New York City. And when I bought my first mobile home park, it was 44 units. And it was at that time that I learned what a cap rate was. I'm sure you know what that is. And so that was super important, because if you can buy a large multi-family property where the current owner has the rents under market, and then you raise the rent and you put a cap rate on that, you can make a lot of money. So like, just for example, if you buy a 50 unit place and the current owner has the rents $100 under market, you go in, you buy the place, you immediately raise the rents. Probably shouldn't do $100 at one time, but if you did, that'd be $5,000 a month extra in cash flow, $60,000 a year, and you put a 10% cap rate on that, that's an extra $600,000 in value for the year. So anyhow, when I first learned that, like, it was a big, huge difference maker for me. So, you know, that probably doesn't apply to everyone flipping houses, but anybody investing, it's probably something to learn.
So now that Steve mentioned that, let me just show you guys real quick on this first tab that you're going to, when you look at this spreadsheet, what Steve's referring to is the cap rates down here at the bottom. So these sheets will calculate cap rate. This one actually is at 8.7% cap and a 15.6% cash on cash return. So if you were to invest your cash as a down payment into this property, you'd make 15% return on your money. So just know when you get these sheets, what Steve's talking about is a cap rate. Keep an eye on that. And you always want to buy it at an 8% cap or greater, as it makes a good deal. 8%. Yep. So, yeah, we'll leave that there. I don't want to dive down a rabbit hole, start talking, but that is a great point. Got to keep an eye on the cap rate. Know that you raise the rents, you can increase your cap rate.
Yeah, like finding something with under market rents is huge. If
Yep.
you're buying multi-family places.
Bingo. Thank you, Steve. All right, thank you, guys. Hopefully see you all back here first Monday of next month. If you have any questions, let us know.
Tune in next time to the Central Pennsylvania Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast, keeping you up to date with what is happening in the York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania real estate markets.